Hi everyone, I'm Jack. Today I'd love to share with you one of my vibe-coded projects called Command Center. So this project was inspired by the time when I was at McKinsey. Basically, what I'm trying to experiment is creating a vision, a proof of concept on if McKinsey consultants could work AI natively and how would they work and what kind of tools they need and what would be the operating model like. So if we take a step back, what does McKinsey consultants do? I feel like basically two things. One is do real analytical problem solving on high complex problems. The other part is client counseling, where the human touch comes in, like having coffee chats with the clients, mobilizing them, guiding their decisions, and managing relationships. With the advent of AI, the time allocation between analysis and counseling would shift mostly towards counseling. So as an analyst or an associate, we probably spend 50 to 80% of our time crunching data, doing expert calls, drawing slides, and come up with synthesized key insights. And I feel like a lot of that could be replaced by the tool that I'm about to introduce. And in other words, we could have even analysts and associates to do more senior partner work, right? Basically, building more relationships with the client. So that's the overall thinking. And so I designed this simple web app to solve this problem, to basically assist and empower and even automate parts of the analytical problem solving work from a consultant. So what we're seeing here is the homepage of the command center. There are four different parts to this product. The first one is the project context, which is basically what are the key questions that we're trying to answer, what are some constraints that our agent, that our product at a global level should operate on, what are some assumptions. And then the second one would be the main section. And within this main section, think of it as the final deliverable, the main deck that we're trying to come up with. Then there's the agent section. So what I'm trying to do here is to mirror how McKinsey consultants are executing projects. So there would basically be one engagement manager plus 3 to even 10 analysts or associates. So this is the main part would be the engagement manager or the partner, like that, giving the high level direction, right? And also synthesizing the final key insights. And then the agent part would be the team members. So you could staff basically infinite amount of team members or work streams to help you research, gather data, building out models, and finally synthesizing key insights. And then in the bottom part, all things logistics, right? So for example, like ordering Uber Eats. So that's the four main components to this command center. And let me quickly walk you through each of the component. So first of all, once we define the key question, let's say we want to understand the AI server market, then we could spin up a couple of different agents. So these are the three different agents that I've already created. So for example, like gathering the latest NVIDIA financial projections. And at McKinsey, you will basically have a research intern or a junior analyst to do this. And also like breaking down the AI server value chain, you will also probably have an associate to go over each of the value chain and see who are the key players over there and what are some opportunities. So let's spin up a new agent. And this agent structure is also followed by the typical working model of a McKinsey consultant. So there would be 4 steps. So first of all, you have to have a clear objective and a clear work plan, right? What are you trying to accomplish and what are the key milestones and tasks? And then the second one would be some clarifying questions with the engagement manager. And once he or she approves it, then you can start execution. And then the last one would be synthesizing the final insights. Okay, let's say we want to have, let's just a really simple exercise. Okay, NVIDIA 2025 GTC takeaways. Okay. Okay. List out 5 key messages from Jensen in 2025 in NVIDIA 2025 GTC. And for each of the agent, you could also specify what kind of tools that you want the agent to use. So for example, I've created 3. So the first one would be web search, powered by the Excel API. The second one would be building out Excel models. And then the third one would be document processing. So if you have like hundreds of pages of PDFs, then it's best to use one of the best-in-class tools like Redato to parse and extract the PDF data. So think of it like staffing a analyst or associate with certain spikes, right? So if you want a really quant-driven, like an Excel guru associate, then you would select Excel generation. And if you want someone that is super detail-oriented and reads through every line of the PDF, then you would select the document process. And if you want someone who's really good at Google searching, like just finding public information from different websites, then select web search. And web search powered by API, Excel generation was powered by GPT, and document process, this is an MCP server that I built with the Reducto API. Okay, so once we have the objective and description clearly aligned, we could hit create agent. And typically it takes around 5 to 15 seconds to create an agent. And what it does in the backend is to go through both the project context and also the agent objective and description and come up with a step-by-step work plan. Okay, so for example, it came up with a 8-step work plan, right? So initiate web search, okay, just select X, I'm not sure why it did not. Identify highlights, compile message, etc., etc. And you could also, as an engagement manager, you would also problem solve with the team members whether these steps make sense or not. Should they be more specific or any other sources that you would like to look at? Or you don't want to take that much of a time to do this really simple task. So you could also delete some of the steps or reshuffle their order or add additional steps. And I'll also kill these too, just to make it simpler. And on the bottom, the agent will also ask you a couple of clarifying questions as well to give it more context. Okay, so once we approve this work plan, then we could have the agent start executing. But what it does in the back end is simply looping through each of the work plan step by step and access any tools, web search in this case. And once every step is completed, it will jump to the second step, and it's all orchestrated with GPT-4. But of course, we could also select the model in the settings page later. And if you don't select any tools, it defaults to GPT. And okay, you can see that the agent has already completed all of his tasks and came up with 5 insights. So what it does is it calls the web search API, and this is the API response that the agent got from Excel. And then it synthesizes into 3 to 5 different key insights. So at this point, an analyst or an associate would bring these key insights to the engagement manager, and they would problem solve. So for example, okay, I feel like this one would be cool. This one would also be cool. We want to add it to our main key insights. So what it does is to once we click the add to main key insight button, it feeds this insight to our main deck, which we would take a look at it later. Okay, so let's say, okay, major firms, collaboration. Okay, let's also add this insight. And of course, what over here is a bit generic, not detailed enough for a McKinsey consultant, but we could always tweak the prompts and also choose different API to further refine. What we're using here is just a really generic web search from Excel. There's also deep research modes with Excel to provide more deeper insights. Okay, so with this agent, we have 3 key insights that we want to add to our main deck. So what it did is in the main section, it added these 3 key insights over here. And with this main board, we could see on the left-hand side the executive summary, which is the most important page of all the final deliverables. So what it does is it takes in all these key insights that was pulled in, that was distilled from these agents, and then generate a high-level exec summary based on all of these insights. And you could always delete any insight and regenerate the summary based on the refreshed insights. And the other function over here is that you could also test out some of your hypotheses, right? So for example, let's say a client comes to you with a really random question, right? Okay, so let's say TSMC is investing more than 5 billion next year. Just want to test it out if it's a really simple hypothesis, even though a hypothesis. But what it does in the back end is basically go through each of the key insights and validate to prove or disprove, or saying that there is insufficient data to your hypothesis. So what it does, it gives you a confidence level. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, it invests in 5 billion, and what the insight that it used was probably this one. And let's also test it out. Okay, so AMD is growing faster than NVIDIA. Okay, let's see what it says. And for each of the hypotheses, you could also reevaluate based on the changes in the key insights. Okay, it refuted. Okay, NVIDIA holds 20% market share, has blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it refuted with 90%. Obviously, AMD is not growing faster than NVIDIA. Okay, so there we have it, the main deck, having all the insights, having all the executive summary generated by all of the key insights that we pulled from the agents. And going back in the agent dashboard, there of course an overview on how many agents have completed. And one thing to note is that all of the agents are able to execute in parallel in the background, so that you don't have to stay in the agent page, and you can spin off infinite amount of agents to work in parallel simultaneously. And moving on to the last section, I think this is just a really cute feature. So as an analyst or an associate, I spend probably 30 minutes every day, or maybe way too much time, on searching for Uber Eats, either for my manager, my team, or for our clients, right? So let's say we don't want to have the same pizza every day. We want to explore different options. So what you could do over here is just put in your address and what are you craving. I'd like to look for some pizza options. And once you hit search options, it would spin up a MCP server to click through the Uber Eats website and search for 10 different options within your address. So what you can see over here, it opens up a browser, navigates to the Uber Eats page, automatically puts in your address, and then search for pizza. It's super cool. It takes about 2 minutes to gather all of this data, and then it will respond is something like this. Okay. Oh wow, it was fast. Okay. So now you can see the results of the MCP server. Which pizza shop, what's the URL, what's the estimated delivery time. So that you could just screenshot this and then ask your manager or your client or your team which pizza shop they would prefer. Okay, that's a high-level view of Command Center, my vision, a really scrappy proof of concept on how I think future knowledge workers could work together. And sorry, last piece of detail is that in the settings page, we could always configure the different APIs that we use and also add different toolkits to the agents. So for example, here we have the Reducto MCP server, and we could always add more MCP servers so that it could not only search for Uber Eats, but it could also search for DoorDash, or not only for PDF parsing, but also more advanced, let's say, Excel building or analytics. And we could also tweak the prompt, the system and the user prompts for each of the steps. Right? For example, we could tweak the work plan generation template to specify what kind of formats, how many steps, what should be the granularity of the work plan, how should it be phrased, and also for clarifying questions, execution, and how do you like to synthesize the insights as well as the executive summary. So I guess what I'm going to do further is to use Brain Trust to tweak these prompts with more structured and standardized evals. So that's it. Feel free to try it out and let me know what you think. Thank you.